Welcome to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings. Good games going on tonight. If you put down $5 on that game, you get $150 in free plays. NBA new customers only. All right, now joined by William Brad Allis. I am merely Mike Luke. Got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk about U of A recruiting, basketball roster construction. But first and foremost, Dalen Terry recently announced that he is declaring for the draft without signing with an agent. Brad, I think this is a smart move by Terry. I'm not particularly worried about this. I would expect Dalen Terry to be back.
Yeah, all indications are that he's going to be back, that he probably won't get the feedback that he wants to stay in the draft. Now, this makes sense from a couple reasons. One, you could end up getting that first-round promise. And if you're getting a first-round promise, it probably means a very good team is giving you that promise. And, you're not going to make a ton of money compared to being a top 15 pick, but a promise is a promise. More than likely, you go and you accomplish a couple things. One, first and foremost, you get the feedback you need. He'll find out, do they see me as a 3-and-D guy? Do they see me as a secondary ball handler? Heck, do a few teams think maybe I can play point guard at this level? I doubt it. But, you see what I mean. He gets that feedback. He comes back, consults with the coaches, and they try to create a plan not only for his in-game development, but in practice and in workouts. Tommy Lloyd, I think, is a lot like Lute Olson. And frankly, let's be honest, Sean Miller was this way. Just because Sean Miller didn't use you in the game the way maybe NBA teams wanted you to be used doesn't mean they weren't working on those skills in practice, in workouts, things like that. I think secondarily, and this is the new breed of the college basketball landscape, Dalen Terry's name is going to start hitting national circuits today. People knew who he was, but for the most part, it was Mathurin. It was
Koloko.
It was even Tubelis and Krisa who got he helps his NIL stuff. Is it significant? No, but if you can all of a sudden get a regional company, a national company to chip in a little bit or to, allow him to branch out, it can help financially make sense next year. And it can also expand for the future. I think that's the one thing we haven't seen about name and likeness. How does success at the college level, and again, I don't know how much he's getting from that ice cream company, probably not much, but the fact that he is now learning to market himself when he does go, let's say, I'm going to throw out two. Let's say Memphis drafts him next year. But suddenly he now knows how to do a public appearance. He knows how to market to companies. He knows how to sit in that meeting and say, hey, here's what I can do for you guys. It's not just his business manager. So all this helps him long run. And again, I think for him, the ideal situation, not Arizona, but for him would be to get that first round guarantee and then he stays in the draft. We all believe, and from what it sounds like, the coaches believe he'll be back. But, in many ways, I think the best case scenario for Arizona would have been he did his homework now and then came back already. But if not, I think, we expect, the coaches expect he will be back, but he may be back a little bit smarter and a lot wiser.
I think that this is honestly, it's a good move for him. And honestly, I think assuming he does come back, Tommy Lloyd, I think, is the perfect coach for him, because when you look at it, Bennedict, Mathurin obviously leaving. He was your big scorer right there. Kerr Kriisa is a good player, but nobody's going to say, well, you can't have the ball, or Kerr's got to have the ball at all times. I think Dalen Terry can really come back and essentially be a much better version of what he's been, with a more offensive-minded gear towards him, and that he can get you the 6 rebounds, the 5 assists, but I think he can also get you the 14 or 15 points. And with his kind of defense, Brad, I think that you've got the ability to be able to come. If he does that, I think he leaves next year as a sure first-round pick, because we both agree that he's an NBA player. It's just about being able to make that right move at the right time.
I think what he has to show the NBA is that he is good enough as a scorer and as a playmaker to warrant that top 15 pick. That he can go and be a starter on a team that needs talent. Because right now, could he go and be a backup on the Suns and be Mikal Bridges Jr.? But he wants to show that, no, he can be Mikal Bridges.
Right.
That type of player. And I don't know if he's a good enough shooter. but I think he could be a good enough defender. He's athletic, he's long, he's going to get stronger. But he has a realistic possibility next year of being the number 2 scoring option for the Wildcats, depending on how things shake out. I think Tabellis becomes the number 1 scoring option. I think he could be the number 2. And if he can go in, and I don't even think he needs to average 16. I think he goes and averages 12, double. Right. You double your scoring output, you increase your 3-point shooting. What was he, 34 or something like that? You go up.
And it came on at the end of the year too. Yeah. He got better as the year went on.
But you shoot 39 because 39 translates to about 40 something in the NBA because you're going to work on it. It's a more wide open league. I think again, does he have the ability to turn some heads now? Yes, but more than likely he's a second round flyer.
Right.
I really, I can't see. I don't think he's good enough that one of the good teams would take him late because most of them need either someone who's going to contribute right away or someone they can stash totally. And he's kind of in between. But yeah, if I'm one of these lower teams or I'm a good team with a low draft pick, then yeah, I'm taking him second round, but he doesn't want to be a second round pick.
He doesn't want to be a second round pick. And honestly, there's some people that are just maxed out as second round picks. Give you an example. I mean, Michael Wright. Back in the day, Michael Wright was always going to be a second-round pick, whether he left as a freshman or whether he left as a ninth-year senior. It didn't matter. Dalen Terry doesn't fall into that group, though. Dalen Terry has that potential. Dalen Terry has that upside to come back and be a top 20 type pick. And there's a big difference there, William, in that you're talking, and again, a lot of second-rounders stick. I mean, you look at a lot of U of A second-rounders have stuck, Gilbert Arenas being the best. But there's also a difference, though, where I've got guaranteed a couple $1 million. I'm set financially if I'm a first round pick. If I'm second round, I'm taking a little bit of a chance.
There is, and I don't know if it's as true now as it used to be. There used to also be that first round stigma.
Right.
And I mean that in a positive way. So maybe stigma's not the right, but teams were much more willing to give Solomon Hill that contract he doesn't quite deserve.
Right.
Who kept getting chance after chance? Was it Wesley Johnson? The old Syracuse player?
Yes, the Syracuse kid who
he was terrible, but he kept getting opportunities. Even you want to go with a guy who had some talent but was drafted way too high, was Beasley. He kept getting opportunities because he was a first-round draft pick.
You know what the
lottery pick.
Here's the quote. Bill Parcells, your guy, ex-Giants great. He said, listen, the reason you're going to take a flyer on someone like that is because at one time they were thought of as being very good. That's the reason why. So you're exactly right there.
Even with my team, the Chiefs, look at all the former first-round picks they stockpile for nothing. Half their cornerbacks and half their receivers are former first-round picks that bombed out on other teams. People are going to give you a chance. So while some teams love getting creative, there's for every TJ McConnell who earns his way into that contract, there's a bunch of, again, I'm going to use Wesley Johnson, the guy who played, I think, 8 or 9 years and shouldn't have.
Stole a lot of money.
Yes. Yet somehow Derek Williams couldn't do that himself.
By the way, Brad, we have a singing request, so real quick, here we go. Don't cry for me, Argentina. How about that, Steve? I wanted to help
Why,
you. Hey,
Steve?
We picked up 3 viewers right there. All right. Now, we're talking about Dalen Terry playing in the NBA. We're going to talk about another guy that's going to play in the NBA. But you know what they both have in common? You would be wagering on them on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Put in $5, get $150 in free plays if that team plays. And if you're a new customer only, eligibility restrictions apply. 21 and up, Arizona only. DraftKings. By the way, Brad, do you like the Suns tonight?
I do. It feels like chip on the shoulder Chris Paul game, Chris Paul going back to New Orleans game, and Chris Paul saying F you Scott Foster game.
Right, exactly. A lot of those.
Chris Paul, what's his scoring? Could you do a prop bet on his over?
Yeah.
Give it to me.
You would do it at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I think it's 18.5 points, I believe. So go ahead.
I like that. I like that one. Hammer that one.
All right, Brad. So now let's talk a little bit of recruiting. The name that has come across the board that everybody's talking about now is a guy named Leonard Miller. Again, I haven't watched Leonard Miller in person. I've watched highlights. Brad, this guy looks like...
Isn't that what we're talking about with a lot of Arizona recruits nowadays?
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Brad, this kid looks like an absolute monster.
Yes.
He looks like he's about 6 foot. And again, I'm not like William back in the day where I'm going to Indianapolis and New Jersey and covering all that. Right. But this kid looks like this is what a top 5 prospect looks like. He's 6'10". He can dribble. He can do everything. He looks like a game-changing type recruit if he were to go somewhere, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's an all-star. He's that good.
Yeah, he looks like that new breed, which is an old breed of small forward, that 6'9", 6'10", legit small forward. Not we're going to play Aaron Gordon at small forward because he wants to get drafted, or we're going to put Brandon Ashley. No, this kid looks like a legit small forward. He's also a legit one and done if he comes to Arizona or Kentucky. And I know the G League's a possibility. There's also some rumblings that he may be draft eligible, which seems weird to me that they'd be talking these other things. But either way, this is a guy, and I know a lot of Arizona fans are burned out on the one and dones. I also know a lot of Arizona fans are burned out for whatever reason on European players. I know David Kelly got a nasty letter about that. DK, keep your head up. Go Guardians. But to me, you should really, in reality, for every 3 prospects you bring into Arizona, one should be a one and done type. One should be what I call first year rotation, second year starter, and possibly lose him to the draft. And then the third should be the pure project. If you look at it, I'm going to use Adama Ball. That he appears to be that second kind of guy. Last year barely played. This year he's going to be in the rotation. Could even maybe start, although I think that's Pelle Larsson. But a lot of it depends on Dalen Terry. But then you look at the Serbian kid, and he seems to be that third type. He might get in the rotation next year, but he's 2 or 3 years from starting. Right. But if you can add Miller to that mix, you do it. Now, do I want 4 of those kind of guys? No, because I think, if you're looking at it, look who's won national titles lately, and it's the Villanovas. Mm-hmm. And even though Kansas has a few one and dones, that was a very veteran Kansas team this year. That's what you want. Do you want 1 or 2 of those guys? Absolutely. But you know what? I also want some Terrys and Tubelis's and Krisas but yeah, if you can get me a guy like Miller to add into that mix, to be that instant superstar. And even if he's not the number 1 scoring option, he's still that. And this like the role Mathurin played last year. I know Mathurin was here the year before, but essentially Mathurin was kind of Tommy Lloyd's one and done. You absolutely take that. Again, I don't want 4 of them per class. As good as Calipari's been, he hasn't won it in a long time with that formula. I think that formula has become flawed. I also don't think that I think what Calipari's done, and to me, it's a lot different than Krzyzewski is. Calipari never figured out really how to blend because he's always going to recruit those guys, but he doesn't get the DeAndre Liggins. He doesn't have the guys who are the 3 or the 4 year players. And that's why you look at it, and every year it seems that they fall short of expectations, whereas at least K, and I know it's a little bit different, but at least he seems to have an upperclassman or 2. Bill Self is the perfect one at doing it. Bill Self, like you just talked about. Bill Self somehow finds guys with 12 years of eligibility. I mean, Mitch Lightfoot, I think, is coming back. I mean, who was the other guy? The guy who had the fashion designer name who was there for 107. Yeah, he knows how. I think it's a good mix. And again,
Silvio D'Souza?
Well, no, but who am I thinking of? The guy from the
fashion designer?
About 5 years ago. He had the name of one of the fashion designers. He was there for 8 years, it seemed like.
Interesting.
It's a running joke on a lot of Facebook groups and stuff. But I'll think of it as soon as this thing's over, and I'll be upset about it. But yeah, Bill Self has had a good formula for that. Frankly, and they haven't had as many one and dones, but North Carolina. I mean, people forget how successful Roy Williams was at the end of his career.
Right.
He since going to Carolina, he won 3 titles. He was. Right. I think
it was a lot with those. It was a lot with really good junior 5-star types, the Raymond Feltons, the Sean Mays, the Rashad McCants.
Yes,
it wasn't necessarily the Marvin Williams of the world. A guy
he was their 6th man.
Right, on that team. Did you scout Marvin Williams?
I did. Yeah, I love Marvin Williams.
You were wrong. I was wrong though too.
How was I wrong?
Well, he was a very pedestrian player.
Yeah, but he was still a top 5 pick.
Oh, I know. No. I'm not saying that. Well, yeah.
Once they get to the league, that's the hard.
Brad's hands are clean at that point. I'm just getting you to the league.
I got him to the league as a 5-star top 10 recruit. That's all. That's all I can do.
But if you were to add the one thing on this U of A roster that I think is a little they're lacking right now is you don't have a ton of ball handling. Kerr is good. Kerr's not Damon Stoudemire with the ball. Dalen Terry is a very good 1.5. Miller brings you, and it's crazy to say this about a guy who's 6'10" or 6'11". Miller actually brings you some real ball handling here, and he's a perimeter guy. So again,
here's where I think Miller also allows you to do.
What's that?
He allows you to go small.
Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%.
Because he becomes your de facto power forward, I think.
Right.
Apologies to our favorite player, Umar Ballo.
Right.
But I think if Miller comes, I don't think he pushes Larson to the bench. I think he pushes Ballo to the bench, and you go for 1 in, 4 out, which is actually kind of a
what about
4.5 because Tubelis isn't exactly back to the basket post up. But I think what it does, it allows you to have four ball handlers on the floor. And that's what this Arizona team is going to be no matter what. While they don't have elite ball handlers, they're going to have ball handlers at about 3 positions. Because if you look at it, Larson's a pretty good ball handler for a 2. Dalen Terry's an excellent ball handler if he's your 3. Adama Ball was a whatever he was, semi-pro point guard at one point. So you got 4 guys there. You're going to bring in a combo guard, I assume. I would assume if the Serbian kid can break into the rotation for a 6'9" guy, he's a good ball handler. If you can somehow land Miller, pretty much if you're bringing in any European player, they're going to have some ball handling ability. So I think the secret is while Kirk Kriisa is the 45th best point guard in the modern era as a ball handler, the overall 3 or 4 man perimeter team is going to be above average at all those positions. And a lot like last year, where, you relied just as much on Kyer and Mathurin and Terry to handle the ball as you did Kriisa in a lot of those situations.
What do you look at? So Arizona next year, let's just assume, because you and I know who it is. I'm not going to put it out there because for whatever reason, nobody wants it out there. But let's say that the mystery European, the big man, does come here. We assume he starts at center, correct?
You would think, unless, again, I think the big question mark is Miller. I think as much as you want Miller, he changes a lot. Because are you benching Tubelis to play Miller?
Right.
Are you benching? I mean, maybe you bench Pelle Larsson and you go with Dalen Terry, assuming Terry's back. Let's assume Terry's back. Let's assume Mystery Euro, and I'm going to assume a combo guard. If you do get Miller, then maybe Miller plays a legit 3. Larsson comes off the bench. I think Larson's fine with that. But yeah, your assumption is that Tubelis, Mystery Euro, front line with Miller, and suddenly you're really big across the front line, and you're 6'7" at the shooting guard. That's a very fun lineup.
Is Pelle Larsson better than Joe McClain already?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And I like Joe, but Joe was a guy who.
Joe was a guy that was better in practice than he was in games.
Joe was a guy who shot 60% in high school and lost his shot for most of his career here. He was a hustle guy.
Right.
And a lot of it was you kind of, I don't know, I think you were 8 at the time, but I was in college. You kind of had to choose, were you a Corey guy or were you a McClain guy? And a lot of Tucson at that time liked McClain because he wore the knee pads. And frankly, there might be a little bit of subtle racism there.
Oh, for sure.
I was a Corey Williams guy. Give me the 6'7" lanky guy from Batavia who could occasionally light it up.
Right.
I was a Corey Williams guy, but you kind of had to choose your poison because they kind of switched roles over who was that first wing off the bench on those teams.
All right, something though that you never.
I got a question for you, Mike. Kirk Kriisa. Would he be Sean Miller's 2nd or 3rd best point guard? As much heat as he takes, do you want him or Mark Lyons?
Mark Lyons. I'm a bigger fan of Mark Lyons than most people, though.
Okay, but as much heat as Kriisa takes, I was thinking about this today. You take him over PJC, right?
Oh, 100%, yes.
You take him over Momo.
Yes.
Take him over Nick Wise. You're telling me you want Nick Wise over Kirk Kriisa?
Nick Wise was like 13 and 5. Nick Wise averaged like 14 and 6.
Yeah, I still don't
on that vaunted Sweet 16 Russ Pennell team.
Yeah, I still want Kirk Risa over Nick Wise.
That's fair. That's not a hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about that today because I read, I think Jason put this out and it might have been on Twitter where, the coaches are higher on Kirk Risa than most of the public is. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I might choose him second. If you want Lions over him because, Lions are going to get you that big bucket, but he's also going to shoot you out of a few games.
Let's talk about Kirk Risa, but also we need to talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Now, you might be saying, Mike, I hear you talking about this all the time, but I've never paid attention. What is it? All right, it's the best sports betting site on there. Get the app. You can bet on the Suns tonight, and if that game is even played, you get $150 in free plays if you put $5 down. That simple, that easy. Make it happen. DraftKings Sportsbook app. All right. I asked this to Doug Gottlieb, and I asked this to Matt Muehlbach. Talk about Mike dropping names right now.
Wow, that's not a bad backcourt.
That's not a bad backcourt. I asked them both this question. Is Kirk Risa good enough to be a Final Four point guard? And both of them, who are much smarter than me, said, I don't know. I thought
that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yes, I think it's fair as well. I thought that was just an interesting remark from two guys who are incredibly dialed in that generally have opinions. I thought it was just interesting.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. But again, I could go to that with the Sean Miller era. Who other than TJ McConnell were you sold on being a point, a Final Four point guard? I mean, they almost made a Final Four with Momo Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Momo Jones would not start over Kirk Risa. So
correct, right.
Now, I think the secret to Kirk Risa, and this is what we talked about last summer, is surrounding him with other combo guards. Mm-hmm. Last year it was, I think to me, Pelle Larsson, although he's a combo guard, right? Is he more of a shooting guard? Absolutely. Kyer was a combo guard. Dalen Terry in his own way. I mean, Dalen Terry's out there dishing out assists. Right. Now, he's not running the offense per se, but he's finding the open guy, which means if Kirk Risa is hot from 3-point range that game, you certainly can let more of the offense flow through Dalen Terry.
Right.
My understanding of Adama Ball's background, and again, the tape looked like it was recorded on a Samsung flip phone.
But you watched him this year, though.
Yeah, and again, I didn't see a whole lot, but he has a point guard background. Does that mean he's a point guard? No, but again, if he can be that secondary, thirdary, fourthary ball handler, I'm making up words here for you, Mike.
Tertiary.
Who can also, dish out a couple assists, who can allow the ball to be taken out of Kreese's hands if he does have the hot hand. Remember Luke's best teams in reality were full of combo guards. Mm-hmm. That 94 team is the best example. You basically had 3 point guards on the floor at all times.
Right.
The 88 team, Steve Kerr had the gaudy assist turnover ratio. Craig McMillan handled the ball a lot. Sean Elliott handled the ball a lot. Right. 97, 98. Was
JT ever really a point guard? I mean, I know he played it his senior year.
No, but how much of the offense went through Miles?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, again, Bibby's a fabulous point guard. Even going into those 01, 03 teams, Arenas could handle the ball. Arenas, he wasn't a passer, but that the ball moved very well. He was a ball handler. And then, of course, that 03 team, you had Luke Walton, who was just,
But here's something though that I think is very important though, is that a bad play, and I think William and I are going to disagree on this, but William is wrong here, in that I think a point guard that is bad in bad situations can torpedo you. Mustafa Shakur. I think it was next to impossible to go to a Final Four with Mustafa Shakur as your point guard. What do you say?
No, I absolutely agree with you.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought you would disagree with me.
No, I think that's my question for Kreese. As I said, and luckily, I think I was wrong. I thought Kreese would either hit the shot that would get Arizona to the Final Four, or he'd make the bonehead play to keep them out of one. Unfortunately,
what do you think of Noah's question right there, William?
You know what? Clutch moments. I want Kerr.
Me too.
Nico's more talented. But Nico just didn't have it in the final 2 minutes of the game.
That's something, though, that we need to emphasize about Kerr, and why Kerr to me is still a little bit of a wild card, because when you look at him, and we've talked about this before, he shoots 35% from the field, but he looks like he should be a really good shooter. He shoots it with confidence. The form is good. But the one thing that he did time and time again this year, whether that was UCLA, whether that was Oregon, whether it was Illinois, he had big chops when it mattered there, William.
I will say this. If you look at the bad turnover against Oregon, because that's really the only time I remember him being bad late in games. I may be missing one, but it seemed like almost every game Arizona lost, they lost by double figures.
Right.
I know maybe the Tennessee game, but that thing was but that bad turnover against Oregon was him not, to me, it's him not paying attention. Right. As opposed to him wilting under the pressure. Nico wilted. Nico did. Look at that Oregon game they blew. He just, turning over the ball, didn't want the ball.
You know what it was? You know what it was? And again, Nico, I think, was the beneficiary of – Nico had unique qualities that most kids that look like Nico don't have. And that Nico could jump really high. He could make some dynamic plays. But when it really came down to it, I can think of 10 point guards from the Lute Olson era that I'm taking. Well, I don't know, 10, because I would take Gardner, I would take Reggie, I would take Damon, I would take Bibby, I would take Terry, Kerr, Offic. I mean, there's 7 right there.
Reeves.
I mean, we're talking about Nico was just not a big time. Nico never looked like the guy that we were going to win a game because Nico Mannion said, "Get on my back."
I think there were a couple things. One, I think in hindsight, the worst thing Nico Mannion ever did was reclassify. Mm-hmm. In reality, he should have pulled a Nick Johnson. He should have gone to a prep school. Right. Again, that's total hindsight. Because he didn't have to play many big games in Phoenix. The competition his team usually cruised, and AAU ball is different. Clutch baskets at AAU ball. I mean, when the coach is wearing pajamas half the time and pounding on the board, basically saying compete, and right. Parents are pulling their kids out of games because they're not getting playing time. Does that still happen, by the way? That's what used to happen when I did. But I think that's the problem with Nico. So Nico's almost an incomplete, and then he goes and he plays pretty well in the G League, and then he gets sick. He might be the big what if. But that whole team, I know, knowing some stories, I'm sure you've heard them, there was a lot of soft guys on that team.
Very much so.
A very un-Miller-like team. So you look at that. But again, I think Kerr, I don't know if Kerr is a pure enough point guard. I don't know if he's good enough to be a quote-unquote Final Four point guard. But I think he's got the stones. I think he's got, let's quote Raph, he's got the onions. Right. The moment's not going to be too big for him. He may do something dumb because he gets too cocky. He may try. They might be on that fast break to clinch the game, and he throws the no look right to the guy who then heaves the half court shot. But it won't be because he shies away from it. In fact, it may be because he over embraces the moment.
I would agree with that. All right. Because William comes on once a week. This is a regular thing. So wanted to get to a little bit of U of A football here before we sign off. Brad, let's look at the Pac-12 South. ASU is a total dumpster fire. ASU. And they're not going to be good for quite a while because the problem is they can't get rid of their coach because you don't know what the sanctions are going to be. And you can't get anybody in there because these could be significant sanctions leveled in there.
I actually think there's a plan that they could do.
What's the plan?
I'd hire Kenny Dillingham.
All right.
He's like 33.
He would take the job.
He'd take the job. He wants to be a head coach. And you give him a 7-year contract. You say, first 3 years, we will not fire you.
Yeah. All right. I agree with that. But
that's what I would do. Or some other 33-year-old hotshot. I'd hire, I want some guy who looks like he could be hanging out with McVay and what's his face from the Cardinals.
Kingsbury.
Yeah. I want one of those guys. Spiky hair, Instagram girlfriend. Yeah. That's who I hire.
All right. Arizona, though. You look around, UCLA, Utah's always going to be solid. Colorado stinks. My question for this, with Lincoln Riley, and I always want to say Lincoln Kennedy, but with Lincoln Riley going to USC now, is that door closed on any team other than USC winning the South?
No. Because Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma and never went undefeated in the Big 12.
That's true. That's true.
Now, I think he'll be wildly successful there. He will take teams to the tournament. He will have a bunch of 12-1 years. And he may go undefeated in the Pac-12. Don't get me wrong. But he is not he's not one of the Big Five.
Okay, I got you. I agree with that.
He's not Urban Meyer. He's not Saban. He's not Dabo. He's not there. He's great. He isn't, but he's probably an A- coach.
Okay.
At an A job, but he was an A- coach at an A job before. And I don't know if the Big 12 is significantly better than the Pac-12.
Here's my question. Let's just say, and we're going to extrapolate this out, Jedd Fisch brings in a top 25 class. Let's say Jedd Fisch brings in 2 more top 25 classes, along with, the transfer guys. Can Arizona get into the position by, let's say, 2024, where they go into the season, 4 years into Jedd Fisch? You could have a senior DeLaura. You could have, you got whoever you have back there should be a decent quarterback. Can Arizona compete for a Pac-12 title or at least a Pac-12 South championship by year 4 of the Jedd Fisch regime if he recruits at the level he's recruited at?
If Jedd Fisch can coach. And here, I think your best case scenario for Arizona, and it's playing out, is that Arizona is Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you're always top 3-ish, and then occasionally you have those spikes where you get in.
Right.
And that's frankly the best you can hope for, I think, for Arizona football, which is a slightly better version of the Stoops middle years and a slightly better version of what Tommy was, because Tommy dipped too much.
Right.
For my liking. I think
he was never able to sustain it. It'd be a good year, and then it'd be a bunch of 7 and 5.
And then you'd have a couple 4s. Because what I think Tommy did is I think Tommy would have that success and then change the formula and try to go after Amon Green, for example, who you were never going to get.
Right.
And then then you have to settle on your C prospect. There was never a plan B when those so I think what you have to do is you hope Jedd Fisch can coach. And again, that's my big question. I like everything else about Jedd Fisch, and I don't think, I'm not this guy who says, well, Arizona lost to NAU last year, so they can never have success ever again. Well, no, because they got better as the year went on. Will Plummer, who I don't think is very good, was a better quarterback against ASU than he was against NAU. That's coaching. But yeah, I think Fisch has to understand there's a formula. I think he has to understand that there's a path in Tucson. And do you want to be USC? Yes. But as we've seen with college football, it's very hard to go from an Arizona to an elite. We've seen it, I think, twice-ish in the last 20-something years, and it's Virginia Tech with the right guy, and it was kind of Kansas State with the right guy. Other than that, what you can do as Arizona is go from a 4-win, 5-win program to an 8-9-win program. And if Fisch can do that, then it's wildly successful. And Arizona fans should be great because a 9-win program occasionally does win 12.
All right, William, before we sign off here, Arizona women's basketball. A lot of people wondering, you lost 8 people or 8 players. I say don't worry about it because here's why. I think Adia Barnes is, and I don't want to use this term lightly, but I think she's kind of cleaning house here a little bit. I think that the players that I think you're bringing in a top 5 recruiting class, multiple McDonald's All-Americans. I think you're going to be going young. You're going to be going young with a little bit of the old hands right there, and that you're going to have a Kate Reese there. But I don't worry about it because I think Adia Barnes has shown that she knows what she's doing. And by the way, she's recruiting at an awesome level. What do you say?
A lot of guys left the football program.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Stanley Berryhill turning pro, you going to miss any of those guys?
Right. No.
I think with the exception of Bindu Yanni, who's a is going to be the 8th or 9th best player on Arizona next year, maybe 10th. No offense, but the one girl who left is at San Jose State. One's retired from basketball. I think Taylor Chavez, who was a girl who had one really good year at Oregon and then has just been kind of an okay player. And I know there's Taylor Chavez fans out there. From what I hear, great kid, just an okay basketball player.
Right.
Just like Jackson Bailey was not going to play linebacker at Arizona. Just like, Drew Dixon's at a school I've never heard of. He committed today to some school I've never heard of.
I see Drew Dixon and Kim Aiken at Vasa Fitness on a daily basis.
Well, you know what? Did you see one of those national projections that had Kim Aiken back on the team next year?
Did they really?
Yeah. One of those 2 early top 25s had him on the roster. So they must know something none of us know, including Kim Aiken.
Well, including the people at Vasa Fitness.
Hey, that's a pretty good athletic. Mike Luke, Drew Dixon, and Kim Aiken.
I like to carry him. I'm
better, there you go. But my point is, there's no one you look at and you say, there's look at all the guys who've left Arizona even under Miller, and with the exception of Simon, and were you really missing them?
No.
I mean, as good as Barcelo ended up being, he was not good at Arizona.
Right.
He went to a better place. So, I'm not worried about. The only thing I could be worried about is depth. And even now, Madia's like, I'm never going to recruit 15 again.
Right.
You just can't do it.
Right.
She's going to have 12 or 13 like the men's team does. And even the men's team really doesn't carry 13 because that 13th right now, the 13th guy is Tabellas's brother. That's more of a to keep Tabellas happy type thing. So, as long as she has 10 good players, I'm not worried about. Guess what? She has 5 returning who are all really good or have potential. And I think she's got 5 commits coming in, including 2 McDonald's All-Americans.
2 McDonald's All-Americans, another top 50.
I trust.
Right. So Adia Barnes, you're not listening, but if you are, we trust you. That's what we're going to say.
Yeah. Yep. No worries.
All right, William, what day you want to come on next? What are the days that you're good again for?
Monday, Tuesday, Friday. So let's shoot for most Tuesdays. I just happen to have double appointments for my son. He had to do the back-to-back doctor's appointments.
I got you. So that's it. So William will be back on next Tuesday at 12:30. Thanks again, Brad. Really appreciate you, my man.
Anytime.
All right, we'll be back with you. Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.